Welcome to Syndicated Nightmares, where each week we take a deep dive into an episode of Freddy's Nightmares based on the Nightmare on Elm Street film series. This week, hosts Dave and Michelle are joined by Ryan Yohe to talk about Season 2, Episode 8, Bloodlines, which aired on November 20th, 1989, directed by James Quinn, and written by Gilbert Adler and A.L. Katz.
Well, Ryan, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we don't go way back. We met each other just a few years ago through mutual friends in the theater community. But if you would, just tell us about yourself and your horror experience and your love of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Absolutely. So I'm an 80s baby, and I definitely grew up in the realm of trying to sneak in and see as many horror films, usually on VHS, as possible. Definitely was enamored with the original A Nightmare on Elm Street at probably within my teenage years. And it was just something that really struck with me, especially of how you're so vulnerable while you sleep. And that was always a thing that I had a fear for many years of, just what could happen while you sleep, or how horrible things can manifest within your brain while you're sleeping. And I originally had gotten more into the horror anthology series of Tales from the Dark Side. That was kind of my gateway drug into a little bit more of the horror anthology series. And when I discovered that Freddy's Nightmares was a thing that I didn't have the privy of seeing when it originally aired, I was super stoked. And then the opportunity to guest star on this podcast and be able to share some thoughts and feelings came up, and I am raring to go. So thank you again for letting me tag along on this wild journey.
Oh, no, we love having fans of A Nightmare on Elm Street talk to us about this show. The movies are spectacular. The TV show, however, some of the episodes are a little difficult to get through, so we are on this journey together.
Ryan, this was the first time you'd watched the show, or you've seen episodes before?
I've seen a handful of episodes before. Generally, while I had a little bit more connection to broadcast TV on the Chiller network, but I'd kind of fallen off the wagon once I kind of cut the cable, so to speak. But I've seen a smattering of episodes. This one, I think, was one of the only ones from season 2 that I've seen. I feel like I've seen maybe a handful from season 1, perhaps.
Hey, cool. Well, I'll read off the summary or the synopsis. An escaped convict returns home to retrieve the money he hid from a bank robbery and discovers his son is bitter and his wife has lost her mind. Later, a couple illegally adopts a baby, but as the little girl grows, her new parents come to the realization that she may be evil.
Okay, so this episode starts off with the disclaimer that it's Springwood some time ago. So it's a little blast from the past, maybe. And we hear there's a police officer that is sitting outside of a house, and he's listening to the radio, and the newscaster starts talking about how they won't be hearing from Freddy Krueger again, and that a man named Woody has recently escaped from jail, or from prison.
Or it says there's no indictments in the fiery death of Freddy Krueger, which it seems like the show goes back and forth with either he's presumed missing or people know he was buried alive.
Yeah,
people know he was burned alive.
Yeah, there's definitely no consistency on what happened to Freddy, at least in the episodic universe.
I noticed in the second part, there's a few quick moments on the radio where they do mention a teenager died for mysterious reasons. And then going into the mortuary segment, I believe it was like the 4th mortuary has been opened in the town recently.
Mm-hmm. So then we have that same officer. He goes He goes to the house of Mrs. Joyce Burton, and she is Woody Burton's wife, and Woody is the person who recently broke out of prison, and the officer believes that if he's going to go anywhere, it's to this house. And so he's kind of like staking it out and wants to know if Joyce has seen Woody, but she has not.
And she's sort of out there and keeps talking about how they're going to go to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, there's definitely some screws missing up there. to put it nicely. She doesn't have like a childlike mind, but she's definitely not with it right now.
Definitely one track, if not two tracks, and it's Woody and Grand Canyon.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all that she focuses on. She just wants Woody and the Grand Canyon.
And then we see Freddy doing he's like behind bars yelling to the warden.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he says, breaking out is hard to do, but not for me. And then starts eating the bars.
Yep.
I really want to know what material that bar was made out of that hopefully was enjoyable to eat on camera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then we have a flashback of Joyce and Woody when they were a much younger version of themselves, and they are having a lovely picnic outside, and they're making out and very much in love. And so we kind of see the story of how Joyce and Woody came to be.
Yeah, which was kind of nice. It seemed like a sweet scene.
Oh, yeah. But you definitely got the vibe that Woody was not a good match. He definitely
Right.
wasn't looking for a wife at this particular moment in his life.
Yeah, wasn't his compliment to her like, I can see through your dress?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, maybe it wasn't that nice.
So definitely needs a few courses in the gentleman area.
And then we meet their son, Jack, who he wakes up his mom, and she thinks Woody's coming home, and he's, it's clear he doesn't like his father, and he says, we were never a family.
And reminds her that they didn't have such a good life together. Like, you get the feeling that Woody was very controlling and probably abusive. So Jack probably prefers that his father stay in prison, or I think he robbed a bank like 10 years ago or so.
Also, did anyone get the impression whenever Jack first appeared, did it feel like Nicholas Brendan just kind of appeared through a time loop or a time hole and played that character?
The actor definitely looked like him.
And then the cop comes back, and he's sort of confrontational with Jack, because Jack apparently doesn't get along with the police either. And the cop tells him that the cop references that they never found the money from the bank robbery, and he assumes that it's hidden at the house, and that the dad who escaped from prison is going to come back to get it.
Jack wasn't aware that Woody had broken out of prison, so that was definitely news to him.
Oh, yeah, I guess the cop only told the mom at the beginning.
Yeah. And the mom never relayed it to Jack. So Jack, in a panic, goes to the hall closet and gets a handgun out from it. And then the phone rings, and it's Maggie, his girlfriend, wanting to know if he's going to come over and stay the night. And he's like, I have some problems to deal with. I'll call you later.
Sorry, I got to stay up all night twirling my gun around as much as possible, just in case someone shows up.
Yeah, definitely can't come over and visit you right now, girlfriend. Then Jack hears on the news that Woody is believed to be about 40 miles away. And so he's like, oh, yeah, I'll just stay up all night with my handgun and wait for him. He ends up falling asleep while he's like on patrol.
Yes. And he has a nightmare with the dad, where the dad shows up with a gun and asks where the money is. And then the mom comes in and the dad shoots her. And then he wakes up.
I did make a note that when she did fall down the stairs quite dramatically and hit her head, when she looked up, she did have one bloodline on her head.
Oh, nice.
Was it like a discussion over like a watch or some valuable that apparently Jack had misplaced or stolen? Is that where the argument came from?
I think, and then it just like escalated into I never wanted kids. Why didn't you, basically like all mad that she had this child when he never even wanted her to. And she was like sticking up for him about the watch missing, and that's when he throws her down the stairs and she hits her head. And we learn this is why she kind of only has a 2-track mind, where it's Woody and the Grand Canyon, and that's it. So she definitely has some type of like traumatic brain injury going on.
Yeah, I don't even think she mentions her son's name once, like from that point on. Anytime he ever speaks to her, she just kind of roundabout responds to him, but it's strictly, like I said, Woody Grand Canyon.
And when Joyce is thrown down the stairs, she ends up breaking one of the steps, like the lid part to it kind of comes up, and so Woody's all mad, like, oh no, there's something else I have to fix around this house. Which I didn't get the impression that he was like quite the handyman.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'd even go so far as to say he's probably the one that breaks most of the things in the house.
Yeah,
for sure.
But then Jack wakes up and he's like, "Oh yeah, the stair would be a good hiding place," and pulls up a couple stairs until he finds where the money is hidden.
Yeah, so the money is in the stairs, and then we don't really see what happens to the money after that, but shortly after, there's a knock on the door, and it's Woody dressed as a police officer. So it's apparent that he killed the cop that was outside watching over the house, and he killed that cop and came inside. But, like, at that point, he only had a few more feet to go inside the house. Did he really need to dress as the cop?
Yeah.
I was thinking that too.
That very much even kind of made me feel like old like slasher film, where it's like the final girl or whomever is remaining is the one that's like, oh good, the cop is here, and then it's like, I'm not the cop. Ah!
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. But so he comes in the cop uniform and he's threatening Jack and tells him he never really wanted him. And, you know, the mom comes in and still just talks about the Grand Canyon. And then he asks for a screwdriver, and it's like the biggest screwdriver I've ever seen. It's like a giant novelty screwdriver.
It's like a foot long.
But when he uses the enormous screwdriver to lift up the stair, the money is gone because Jack has taken it out and moved it.
But tries to play dumb because he doesn't want Woody to know that he like knew that there was money there to begin with.
Joyce was basically saying, yeah, we're gonna have a kid, and then Woody's response, I don't want kids, and she says, oh, I don't either. I swear. Clearly, apparently, that was the end of that discussion or argument, because she had Jack, and all of a sudden it's just, by the way, Woody's saying to Jack, oh yeah, I was never a fan of you, and I'm guessing the same goes the other way around.
Yeah, it was a really like dramatic moment, and it didn't need to be.
Right.
So then Joyce comes in and she realizes that Woody is back, and she thinks like, oh, we're gonna go to the Grand Canyon, and goes to like get dressed because she's in her robe and night clothes, and she comes in with a new hat that she had recently bought, and it's in like one of those circular hat boxes, and she's like, oh, this is my new hat, Woody, what do you think? And Jack is all worried when she opens it, because it turns out that there's more than just a hat in that box.
Such a strange place that Jack decided to hide the money. Hat box?
Maybe he just thought, like, who uses a hat box? Like, no, nobody will look in this.
since, he probably didn't think that his mom was ever going to get to the Grand Canyon or would want to wear a hat to the Grand Canyon. Yeah, like that was the safest place to put it. So it turns out that the money that Woody stole from the bank is now in the box, and Woody sees that it's in the box, and he's all like, aha, I got what I came for. And then he and Jack kind of wrestle over the gun, and Woody knocks Jack out. But I think Woody thinks that he killed Jack.
Yeah, he takes like the world's worst pulse of Jack. He's like, well, I don't feel anything. Guess he's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Woody and Joyce are driving off together, and apparently he's using her for cover because nobody's looking for a man and woman driving together. Although it doesn't, it seems like he killed the cop that was stationed outside the house, so they're going to know that something happened, and the wife is missing as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. But he's got the, what he thinks is Jack's dead body in the car, and he's also got the dead body of the cop in the trunk.
The mother just doesn't, like, no, dead bodies, it's fine. Go on the trip. Don't have to worry about anything. Blah, blah.
It's the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. It's like 2 dead bodies or the Grand Canyon. Which one am I going to focus on?
And I thought it was funny how, like, yeah, she's just talking about the Grand Canyon, and he's getting really annoyed with her.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he's having thoughts of, like, how much longer can I put up with this lady babbling about the Grand Canyon? So Woody gets out, and and they're like in this deserted area where it's like fresh dirt that he can bury the 2 bodies in. So he starts digging a little burial plot for both the cop and Jack. And Jack kind of comes to while it's happening and reaches for the gun that he stashed in his boot, and he ends up shooting Woody.
Didn't Woody even mention, kind of like in a twist of like poetic justice to him, it's like, this is the area that, like, we decided to get married, and this is where we didn't want to have Jack as a kid, and now this is where I'm getting rid of him.
Yeah. It was like, why would you go to that spot?
But in turn, Jack got rid of Woody.
Yeah.
Also, I guess, make some type of poetic justice from that.
Jack goes back to the car where Joyce is still talking about the Grand Canyon. And Jack is like, no, Mom, we're just going to go home. Everything's fine. And then I think they kind of flash forward a few days or a few weeks ahead, and you can hear the newscaster on the radio talks about how Jack was exonerated for shooting his dad, but the money that was stolen from the bank all those years ago is still missing.
Yeah, so it all worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Freddy, I liked Freddy's line there when he's talking about having kids or kids being trouble, and he's like, I've got the perfect form of birth control. 1 tablet lasts a lifetime. And he's referring to a headstone.
Yeah.
Cool. And then on to part 2. Kind of got the sense in the first half when he got a phone call from someone named Maggie, I was thinking, oh, she's probably going to be in the second half.
Oh, that's so funny, because like right before the second half started, I was like, who are they going to talk about in the second half? Because we barely saw any characters in the first half that are still alive right now.
Yeah. But yeah, now Maggie and Jack are married, and it was weird the baby already had a name, but apparently they've been trying to have a baby, and he used the money, black market to get a baby, and he walks in and he's like, here's your new daughter, Patty.
Maggie isn't so sure about the baby because, like, she wants to know who the real parents are and, like, where did this baby come from?
Boy, does she ever.
Yeah. pretty much the most bizarre questions to ask when you just have a baby handed to you.
Right. But yeah, apparently she can't conceive, and because he's an ex-con, they can't adopt through normal channels, so they had to
take matters into their own hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get a secret illegal baby.
Mm-hmm. And so then we have Maggie wakes up and she looks over at her nightstand and she has a series of family photos. One of her, Jack, and baby Patty, and then another photo of the three of them, but everyone has aged by about 7 years. So Patty's about 7 years old right now. Oh, and then Ryan, do you remember Freddy in his Italian chef?
Oh God, with his spice, sugar, spice, and everything nice.
Yeah.
Down in the pot. I figured something was going to come up along those lines. What was the everything nice? It wasn't granular like the other two things. It almost looked like just like a pile of leaves or something.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't
know. slight random musings.
So we have now, Patty's about 7 years old, and we find out that she is in trouble at school because she is being accused of breaking another girl's arm. But I don't think we ever found out the reason why she broke the other girl's arm. Just that's apparently how Patty likes to handle things on the playground.
I bet you that girl said something dirty about her grandmother.
Yeah.
Seems to be a little nerve going on. Well, the mother from the last segment, now the grandmother, makes an appearance. And of course, while Jack is saying, well, she was in a home, but she didn't like it there. And his wife is not having it. She apparently has not been thrilled with the mother being with them for so long, and just kind of, I'm guessing, talking about Woody and the Grand Canyon for months. But Patty has definitely taken a shine to her, and then there's a cat.
Yeah, the cat. So Joyce, now the grandmother, she doesn't really live with them because it's her house to begin with. But she's supposed to be in a nursing home, and they decide to take her out of the nursing home for whatever reason. And Maggie isn't happy about it at all. But like Ryan said, Patty just loves her grandma, and they totally get along, and they sing songs together, and they cook together. And Patty is like very protective over her grandma.
And Patty says, tell me that story about the Grand Canyon, the place that you told me you went.
Yeah.
He said, oh boy, did we ever go there. It's so great.
Maggie sees Patty and Joyce cooking in the kitchen, and they're like chopping celery and carrots and just basically like have this total Food Network TV show going on. And there's a huge boiling pot on the stove. And Maggie's just like, I wonder what's for dinner, and walks over to the pot, and it's the cat. the cat.
Poor thing.
Yeah. But luckily, it just turns out that was a dream that Maggie was having. The cat's still alive.
Yes. Although, do we ever see the cat again after that?
No, we don't ever see the cat
again. Well, I hope it's okay. Yeah, they have this really, Patty and Joyce, the grandmother, have this really creepy relationship. Like, Joyce just sits in a rocking chair next to her as she's sleeping.
Yeah, there's definitely something a little unsettling about somebody just rocking in a rocking chair at the middle of the night. Just hanging out, not saying anything.
So Maggie goes back to bed, and she tells Jack that she wants Joyce to go back to the nursing home, and she wants the name of the adoption agency and the real parents of Patty, because she's kind of afraid of Patty right now. And so Jack is like, I'll get you the name to the attorney, but my mom is staying here. Which I was kind of like, good for you. Like, don't put your mom in a nursing home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a good compromise.
Oh, yeah, I thought so. Yeah. And
it's not like she's dangerous or anything. She just likes to hang out with little kids and then talk about trips she never went on, but thinks she did.
Yeah. There's no harm in that.
Yeah, and so he says he knows the names and location of Patty's birth parents, and so they drive and end up in a cemetery, and there's a, I don't even know what you call it, like an above ground casket thing.
Yeah, it's like
In a
a
cemetery.
it's like a crypt or something, but not
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
And they and she's like, I have to know who they are, and they like force it open.
Yeah, blatant disregard for all
Yeah.
any type of sacred nature of a cemetery. Who rips open someone's grave?
But
Right.
the lid, it's supposed to be cement, but it just like slides open with the greatest of ease.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A mother that wants answers has the superhuman strength.
Right. Yeah, and then there's just like an animal skeleton inside, and he says it's the skeleton of a jackal.
Who knows what a jackal looks like?
Maybe he's seen The Omen at some point.
Okay.
But that's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, got nothing.
So then Jack goes missing, and Maggie's like looking around the cemetery for him, and then she sees Joy standing there with a Rottweiler, and then the Rottweiler like goes and attacks Maggie. But lo and behold, it's another dream.
Yes. And then she wakes up, and Jack and Patty come in, and he's like, look what Patty picked out. And they actually have a big Rottweiler now.
Mm-hmm.
Which when I saw that, I was like, so she's got this, psycho child. She's, taking care of her mother-in-law as well. And now he's like surprising her with, we also get to take care of 100-pound dog.
Yeah.
Must be like, well, we don't have a cat anymore, so now we have a dog.
Yeah.
Right.
So Maggie instantly hates the dog, but the dog seems to really love Joyce. That's not a recipe for disaster or anything.
And then Joyce sort of seems to know who Patty's parents are.
Oh yeah.
And Maggie confronts her, and she's shaking her like, tell me who her parents are. And the little girl is watching this in the doorway, and then Joyce somehow dies while Maggie's shaking her.
She like gives her a seizure.
Right.
Patty is standing in the doorway, and she's all like, you killed Grandma.
I loved that. It was like a fun, like creepy horror movie kid thing where she just kept saying like, you killed Grandma, I saw what you did, I saw you killed her.
Yeah, and Maggie's like, I didn't kill her. Sometimes old people just die when you shake them violently. It's totally fine.
He's like, oh yeah, she was having a seizure and I tried to help her. by giving it to her?
So then Jack tells Maggie that Patty's mom was a nurse at a mental institution, and I kind of got like that Weston Hills vibe from it, like they were trying to say that she worked at Weston Hills, which is part of A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4 and 5.
I think that actually was it for that like hospital/asylum for the criminally insane.
Yeah, she was a nurse that worked there and had an affair with one of the inmates, and she tried to have an abortion, but for whatever reason didn't, and ended up giving birth. And when she saw the baby, she said like the baby's a monster or evil or something like that, and quickly committed suicide by throwing herself out of the 8th floor window. And
Patty is in the doorway and like hears Jack telling all this to Maggie. So she watches her mother kill her grandmother, and then she hears all about how her birth mom thought she was a monster and killed herself.
But Patty's only like 7 years old at this point. Does she really understand what suicide and adoption and all that means?
I don't know. She's got a pretty sinister, glowering stare. So I feel like maybe she knows more than she really lets on to them.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah. She's got like a Damien vibe.
Yeah, very much so. So yeah, Patty hears everything and she gets upset and locks herself in the bedroom. And Maggie's like, I want that dog gone. Like that's the only reaction she had. Get rid of that dog.
Yeah, and she she has this nightmare with the dog where she wakes up and the dog is in bed with her, barking at her. And she runs into Patty's room, and I wrote in my notes, like, is Patty Carrie now?
Yeah.
Because because suddenly Patty has telekinetic powers and she's throwing things at her or making things fly towards her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That actually reminded me of the different anthology story from Tales from the Dark Side, where there was long story short, there was a standoff between an adult and a child version of her, where it was just like wind blowing in the little kid's bedroom, toys and things are flying at her wildly, and it was very much just that little baby Carrie vibe.
Yeah, I definitely got the Carrie vibe from this, because Patty's accusing Maggie of killing Grandma again, and she's like, I hate you, and then she kind of makes Maggie fall out of the bedroom window, which, which I was like, oh, are they going to do like a parallel of how Patty's real mom died? Like she threw herself out the window, and now it's gonna, she's gonna make it look like this mom threw herself out the window.
Oh yeah, I didn't make that connection.
But then it turns out it's all a dream, like it usually is.
Yeah, I remember, was that like 7 or 8 of the episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Maggie walks into the hallway and Patty pushes a roller skate into the hallway, like telling the dog to fetch it, and Maggie ends up the way she like steps on the roller skate, I don't think this happens in movies, but I don't think this would ever happen in real life. But she like steps on the roller skate and goes like rolling on one foot down the hall.
Yeah, for like a good 20 feet down the hallway. She's just skateboarding.
Like the 20s or the 30s, there'd be like the Benny Hill track going, like she was like flying through on the skate.
She's going down the hallway on the one roller skate and ends up falling off the banister and lands in the foyer and probably snapped her neck or something, because she's definitely dead.
And here I thought she was going to go down the stairs just like Joyce did. But no.
That would have been a good twist for her to hit her head and then be acting like Joyce.
That would have been great, yeah. But instead, it's not Maggie who turned into Joyce, but somebody else seems to be Joyce right now.
Now Patty is ready for her Grand Canyon trip.
Yeah.
And that's it. I think Freddy comes back on, right?
He says, like, do you know who your children are? Which I thought was, like, a few episodes ago, there was, do you really know who your spouse is? And now it's, don't trust your children either.
Oh, yeah. I think it was supposed to be a spoof off. I think it was in the 80s when, like, at 11 o'clock at night, some recording would come on and say, it's now 11 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Mm-hmm. So I think it was some play off of that.
I got as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So Ryan, how did you feel about the episode?
I felt there was, despite the blatant disregard for guns and various other screwdrivers, various other tools, it was definitely a wild experience. I remembered as I was making my notes just saying, like, really? What? Why is that your reaction to this? Why is that your reaction to this? But I feel like it's just one of those families, I guess. And it kept me entertained. I will say that.
Okay.
whether or not things are fully believable, or I don't know. Also, I don't think Rottweilers are truly evil. So that was something I had to put on my imaginary rose-colored glasses. And like, I guess that's what we're doing today. But no, it was entertaining.
Good. Okay, Dave, how did you feel about it?
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was entertaining, but not one of the stronger episodes. It was it didn't make that much sense and meandered a bit, but I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think it had a lot of potential to it, but they were trying to do too much at one time. But there was quite a few hits that they got in there. The whole, like, flashbacks of the abusive dad. I liked that. I liked how Joyce kind of reincarnated herself into Patty in some way, and I liked the shout out to Weston Hills, potentially Weston Hills, with that whole, like, that's who Patty's real parents are.
Yeah.
I thought that I was expecting them to say like Freddy was her father.
I thought so too.
too.
That would have been cool if they somehow said that Freddy was her father. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us. I hope the episode was tolerable enough for you to get through. Sorry to put you through such torture.
No, it was, like I said, it was a fun time. I enjoy heightened melodrama whenever I can get it, and boy, did that commit.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. Okay. Thank you so much for listening. Please join us next week when we talk about Season 2, Episode 9, Monkey Dreams, where Robert Englund takes another gamble at directing.